So hi everyone. Today we're discussing about a very important concept in SQL, that is the lag and lead functions. So basically, these functions can be of great help when we are in a condition where we need to compare with consecutive values, like one value below the other, or like we want to compare the current value with the previous value with previous rows, some fifth row or sixth row, or the previous next row, or the immediate previous row. So in such cases, lag and lead functions can be of great help. So in this case particularly, we're trying to solve lead code questions where we need to figure out consecutive numbers. So what is the query? We have been given a table logs which has a particular schema id and num. We need to write a SQL query that find all the numbers that appear at least thrice consecutively. So here you must have get that we need to compare with next and the next value, or previous or previous to previous values, right? So in such cases can be of great help. Again, these functions can be of great help when you're comparing your metrics, like for example monthly sales with your previous month sales. In that case also you can use this number, you can use these functions. So let's get started. So here, to find out consecutive numbers that are present in a given table, we would be using two concepts. One is subquery, and second is the concept of lag and lead functions. So let's get started. So first of all, we will be focusing on the subquery part. So if you don't know what is a subquery is nothing but, again, it is a SQL query whose results would be used by another query, as you will see here. So we will first focus on this parenthesis part. Select num as you can see the character present. So here you can see that is a input table 1 1 1 2 1 2 2. Now expected output is consecutive nums is 1, because here you can see that in the first iteration 1 appears thrice, and this is the goal of our problem, at least thrice consecutively. Then we'll be considering as an output number, consecutive number. So let's get started. So first of all, we will using concept of case when function result that I have discussed in my previous video, that helps us to implement if and else statements in SQL. So case when num equals to lead num. Lead num is that immediate next num value. So if we are standing at id1 num1, lead num will means that the id to num1. It is trying to compare its value with the next num value over order by id. So if we are ordering by id, this is we need to get the next number from the current number that you're standing. Now if we would have done this by order by num, then the case would have been different, right? So order by id is very crucial here. And num equals to lead num comma 2. This means that next to next value should also be equal to num. You got my point? That is why we have mentioned a parameter 2 here. Over order by id, it's again the same. Then 1, else 0, end as cons from logs. So here you can, so if you have gone from a previous video on if else statements, how to implement, you would have got this statements, the case statement that we build here, where we're trying to check whether we are trying to satisfy two conditions. The current number should be equal to the next number and should be equal to the next to next number as well. Then we will take cons as 1, else we'll be taking it as 0. Now we have using this subquery, what we are trying to do is that we are trying to get to the distinct num values present in this particular table where cons equals to 1. So if we have got any number with cons value equals to 1, that means it has a its next number and next to next number is same as num. In that case we will be calling it as a consecutive number, and this is how we can solve this. Now for lead is the next number, we can again use a new function called as lag also. Now, in case of for this particular case, the results won't change, because earlier what we were doing is that when we are using the lead function, we are standing at this point, and then eventually we selected this num id with id1 because its next two numbers are same. Now, if we are using a lag function, what we will see that we would be standing at id3. Then this condition would become same. So here, as id hasn't been mentioned, they just want to have the number. That is why the results are correct. But in case where it would have been asked the id, then we would need to put in some brain key whether we need to use lag or lead depending upon the query, right? So in this particular case, the output would remain same for both lag and lead functions. So lead function is basically to compare with future value for the next values, and lag function is basically used to compare with the previous value. So in this case, id3 num1 will get compared first with id2 num1, and then lag num comma 2 will compare with id1 number. The results for both the cases remains the same. So if you check the output, consecutive number output is 1, because 1 is the only number that is coming as consecutively.